Hi folks, this video is about the element list. It's the most powerful control in CyberTracker by far, so I thought I'd give you a rundown of some of the cooler features that it has. To start with, I'll just create a new database, new screen. We have single select, multi-select, number select. These are actually all the same control on the underside. It's just the way they're configured. So I'll start with a simple multi-select. Call it my list. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put some elements in. I have some I've got on the clipboard here. So I'll just paste them from Excel. There they go. Notice that each of these elements also has space for an icon. You can change what these columns are. For example, if you wanted a higher resolution icon, you could go up to something like 100 by 100, or you could even use an image, which is an arbitrarily sized thing. So for now, I'll just use the icon 32 by 32 because it works pretty well for the purposes of this demo. And I'll go and assign images to each of these things. So there's the aardvark, there's the bat, cougar, which one is this? The penguin, and the tiger. So note that the images actually don't show up here. I could have selected a screen that had the icons all set up and everything already by going for something like one of these guys. Again, also all element lists. But I didn't. I just started with a very basic control because I want to show you how to customize it. So I can go into layout mode here, and what you can see is that as I click on it, all the properties appear. You see there are all kinds of properties here. Something like center text, pretty obvious what that does. But what I'm interested in is the icon itself. So I guess I'll go down and I'll select the icon. And I'll say icon 32 because that's the one that I've just selected. Note if I click on layout here, there's the icon next to each thing. And if I hold down on the icon, it actually shows it in a little bit larger format. But you can specify which form, which image gets taken here, and it can even be a higher resolution one. So let's go back into layout mode and look at some of the other properties that you can configure. I think maybe I should start with the list mode, which is probably the most important one of all. So here it's on multi-select. Remember, I can select single select. Multi-select icons is kind of an interesting one, but it gets more interesting when the images are larger and some other properties are selected. I'll show you a little bit more later. Number digits, if you click on the top part of here, the number goes up, and the bottom, the number goes down. We also have number fast tap. So fast tap is where if you tap anywhere in this side, then the number goes up, and if you tap near here, then the number goes down. And number keypad is an interesting one. Basically, when you tap here, it goes to a keypad. And you can specify a number like that. So all pretty convenient. Some other properties of interest. If you have a radio list, so let me go back here and change my list mode here to single select. I can also select an auto next feature. So what that means is when I press, it'll immediately try and go to the next screen. There's no next screen here, but it's kind of a one-tap thing. Maybe I'll just show that how that works. So if I were to say photos, next screen. So because I have auto next, I click it, and I don't have to select it and then press the next button. But that actually only works for radio lists, as you might expect. The number of columns is fairly interesting. So obviously you can get more items on a screen by increasing the number. If you were to go to something like this, you notice that the text is really obscuring things. But then if you were to change the list mode to multi-select icons, and maybe increase the the item height to say 40, then you have something which is fairly interesting, which is these are checkboxes. Again, you can click in the middle and it zooms in and tells you what it is, but for the most part that's how that works. In the case where let me just go back to one column and go through the list mode of number, let's go number keypad, because that's a fairly interesting one. I can also say, where is it? Show text. Show caption is the one I want. So note that I've increased the overall height of the items, so they're fairly large, and you can really identify the icon at this resolution. But there are a lot of properties associated with this. For example, I can say minimum value, I could make it I don't know, -5, and maximum value could be 20. And in that case, when I go here and I select 8, that's okay. But if I select 50, then it says number more than 20. So there is some level of validation on these things, and you can specify it like that. There's also a fairly cool feature called formula mode, which is keypad formula mode here. And that would be used if you're doing calculations in the field. So if I want to do something like 25 plus 5, note that's where the formula shows up, and I say equal, and it's 30. Again, it's more than 20. But if I went 5 times 2 equals 10, that would be acceptable. Let's continue. So let's see what the other reasonable ones are. Columns we've covered. Decimal points is somewhat interesting, so you can have, say, 2 decimal points, and in that case, see it's 0.00, so I can say 5.23. 5.23. There we go. Yeah, that's really the primary things. There are some funky features here with histories and so on, so that you can see which things have been selected in the past, and you can even hide things that have already been shown. So that's actually a fairly fun feature. And what else is there? Yeah, there are a bunch of interesting features associated with the details, like the radio sound and so on. So if you had a sound associated with an aardvark, for example, you could have a little play button and a stop button, and then you could hear it in the field. That's more like a field guide sort of feature. Anyway, the idea is you go through each one of them and see what works for you. Thanks for watching, folks.